Hello everyone, this is Dan, Dan Kupka, DK, Dr. DK. Just don't call me late for dinner. Hopefully you can hear this. Hopefully will be able to hear the audio from the program, Ableton Live, which I've got up on the screen. What I intend to do is to basically use a single plugin, many instances of that plugin, to create much of the sound in a tune. It'll be something simple, nothing too elaborate, but hopefully this will be a fun little experience. And seeing that I've already practiced once, I think I have a better idea of how to go about doing it. Just like anything, it's progress. So here we are. We've got a whole bunch of these minis, which are software replicas of a Moog Mini, kind of like a synthesizer from the 70s, 80s eras. And then for drums, I've got another plug-in here, battery from Native Instruments, and I'll be doing a little bit of keyboard playing with the Rhodes a little later, probably. So that being said, these four I'm going to tweak and make some sounds. Where do we start? Let's start with the first. So, mini number one. Let's bring up the properties here. And now here's the window and showing all of the module, well, much of the basic functions of the module, which you normally see in real life, or something very close to this. And then what you do not see as extra functionality, you have these other categories of tweaks, like LFO and arpeggiation, motion recording, that's new to me, modulation in general, and some effects. So that being said, let's start with the basics. Here we have our keyboard, reminiscent of like a Moog Fatty I played once that a friend had at a gig. And you have three separate oscillators over here, and they all pretty much do the same thing. You have various waveforms you can select from. You have octaves that you can set each oscillator to, and then you have some fine tuning in the center for the last two oscillators, and then you have a synchronization option between both 1 and 2. None of these are a must, but there are certain things I'll do that will make the sound more aesthetically pleasing for the type of sound I'd be looking to make. So in this instance, let's say I want to make a bass sound. To illustrate the initial sound, one singular oscillator in its default state, it'll sound very harsh, just to warn, so be prepared, but this is what an A note sounds like. So that is an A note. It has just one singular kind of quality to it. It sounds very brash. Could make it sound even brasher, but there's no nuance to it. It's just basically a sawtooth waveform, as highlighted there. We can change that, so we can change the quality of that waveform from anywhere from triangular all the way through to a narrow rectangular waveform, which is more like a pulse. So let's select one. Let's go back to sawtooth. So, and that's just the one oscillator. We want to make, well, let's say we want to make it a little fatter sounding. Let's say, we'll turn on oscillator 2, turn up the volume a bit, and let's also make that a sawtooth. And let's turn the octave setting, the range, down to 16 or 32nd. Let's see what each of those sounds like. Ooh. So let's go with 16. that sounds a little bit better. So let's say if we play under the waveform oscillator too. Let's go to square. Ooh. Let's also go to triangle. Let's go with square. I like square. Alright, so, and also, let's detune it just a little bit to give it a little bit more character. Oh, that's semitones. Actually, that would not be desirable. There is no fine grain tuning on this. So let's just show what it sounds like when it does the semitones. It'll sound weird, but so, I mean, you get the idea. Cool. Actually, that sounds pretty brash. But let's keep it at 0 for oscillator 2. 0 semitones, and let's also activate the noise setting to white noise, and let's see what that sounds like. So noise basically is like another type of oscillator, another signal that rides on top of or is mixed in with the other up to 3 oscillators coming in, and then that all gets fed out to the next section. And so here we have filters of various sorts. This is a waveform filter up on top here. So you've got it's a combination of a low pass filter, which means that if active, everything below a certain filter setting will be passed through, and everything above that setting will be effectively blocked from sounding. So you can get some interesting results with that. And if you sweep that particular parameter, you can make some neat sweepy type of I use the word again, but sweepy type of sounds that you might find in, say, techno, acid, or rave type music. So let's say we go over here and adjust this. This is the amount of contour to apply. It's kind of like a dry wet setting. And let's give that 75%, 76%, thereabouts. That's good. And now we take a listen. So we've adjusted the emphasis filter, which basically emphasizes that part of the spectrum, which is right now at 20,000 hertz. It's going to be painful if I bring this down. The frequency cutoff, so I'll adjust this a little lower so it doesn't hurt too many ears. So you get the idea. We can also make it a little lower. But if we adjust the amount to 100%, let's see what happens. So, no filter applied. All the filter applied, so you just hear everything above that notch. Below that notch. And that's applied to the waveform itself. Now, let's just bring it to something that I was kind of thinking earlier. actually add a third oscillator to that. So adding a third oscillator gives it a little bit more beef, so to speak. And now what I'd like to do is to adjust certain other parameters, say like the envelope filter for the frequency shaping. And so what that effectively will do is change the amount of, or the time to get to a particular frequency that is set in the dials above this, and then decaying to something that is more nominal, and then how long that is to be sustained, as indicated by the label here, sustain, while the key is being pressed. So I can adjust that. So you get the idea. And let's play around with the attack just to hear what that sounds like on the frequency shaper. Kind of a very soft but kind of sci-fi-y bass sound. But I like this more stabby type of bass sound. Okay, now on a similar vein, but a slightly related vein, but a bit different, we've got an envelope for the volume, which is labeled Loudness Contour. And this modifies the volume envelope over the audio signal, over the signal. And just like with the frequency, this deals with how long it takes to get to the initial volume parameter, and then to the time to decay to a nominal, or to the time to decay to the next part of the envelope, which is the sustain level. And then the sustain tells you how long the note lasts, as long as the key is pressed. Now, the decay will affect the sustain because if the delay is extremely short, decay is extremely short, it will effectively cut the note short, even while you're holding the key down still. So all of these interplay with each other, much like all of these in their own domains, and you can adjust those to your heart's content. I like what I have so far. But while I like the basic sound thrown together on this panel, I think it needs a little bit of something else. Perhaps a little bit of delay. Excuse me. Alright, so let's go back to this, and let's go over here. And we've got our effects. Let's say we want to sprinkle on a bit of chorus and delay. Let's see what that sounds like. Bit too much delay. So, that works. Right. So now I've just designed a bass sound. Alright, let's record something. Let's turn on the click track. I want to quantize that because So that's the bass. Let's move on to the next thing. And hopefully you heard that. If you can't hear it, I'd be very disappointed in myself, but let's hope that you did. Okay, so next we have, well, another instance of the MIDI, and also set to one oscillator, and it would be nice if I arm the track. So again, very brash, no character to it really. What do we do? So let's think about it. We have a bass, we could go with a pad, we could go with a lead sound, we could go with any number of things, any different directions. So let's go with a pad, because that's pretty easy. So I'll think, what are the qualities of a pad? It takes some time to build up to some volume. It doesn't have to be extremely instantly on. It can linger for a while. It can sometimes, it tends to sound sort of full, so not terribly narrow in terms of stereo width or what have you. So that all being said, we have one oscillator. Let's make it 2 oscillators at least. So let's adjust some things, and I'll also make that triangle because it's a little softer, and make the lower end square to give it some beefiness, as it were. Oh yes, and we want to make sure that polyphony is turned on, just meaning multiple sounds, and want to make sure that the number is set to, say, something reasonable like 4. And there we are. So already we've got some kind of nice relaxing tone. We want to make sure that we in fact let it come in slowly instead of right away. Cool. And also turn up the sustain all the way. And the decay too. Because the decay also lets you let the note decay, as it were, even after you've released the key or keys. So you could probably hear it through the microphone in the background, the release of the keys. So even as I'm releasing the keys, the notes are still sounding. So that's pretty good. Let's give it a bit more character with the filter section up here. So let's just go a little crazy, not really paying attention to anything. Just randomly adjust some values and see how it sounds. Okay, sure. Cool. Let's make that a little lower though. So already we've got something that is coming close to a nice pad sound. Let's turn up the decay a bit as well. Turn the decay up halfway here. Actually, on the waveform decay, let's keep it low. Cool. Alright, now let's go back to our effects and turn on some good old chorus and delay. And again, the delay is a bit too much. Oh, that was my chair, sorry. Okay. Modulation, let's see, we've got a whole matrix here we could play around with if we wanted to. That's a bit too much for what I was planning. I'll get into stuff like that later. Let's see here. Let's go back to, that's some motorcycles or vehicles outside. Could probably sample those for later. Alright, so we got our pad. And we've got our bass again. Let's go back to that. Cool. Alright, that's let's go back here. So we'll call that, what do we call it? Let's call it pad, of course. Whoop. Cool. Pad. And there we have it. Let's record something. Want to make sure that other track is playing too. So we've got that, and now let's see if we can do a lead. Let's say, right, bring up this synthesizer here, listen to some more vehicles go by. Alright, so lead sound. So we've got a plain old sawtooth. And we can leave it as is. We could modify it a bit. Let's add another oscillator just for kicks. No pun intended on the kicks. Make it an octave lower of the second oscillator. Actually call it square. Ooh. Rectangular square. Here we go. Alright, so let's also raise the attack on the volume, which means delay the attack by a bit. Same with the frequency envelope. Cool. Let's just leave it at that. Let's make it simple, keep it simple, and let's just turn up some reverb here. It's not everything I think of that I've wanted to put in it, but let's just go with it. Let's try that again. Interesting. Okay. Well, I'll just go with it. So we've got that. Actually, now that I think about it, I want to adjust that a bit. So that needs sound. Cool. All right, that's a little better. So let's move on to the next. And so we've got bass, we've got pads, we've got our leads, or a lead, and then I'll just do like a little bell pluck instrument type sound, plucked string thing. Okay, so let's bring up yet another instance, and again we have the one singular oscillator, which would be sounding if I had it enabled. So probably not too much adjustment here. See, the note will be held as long as I hold, or the sound will play as long as I hold the note down on the keyboard. So what I need to do is to adjust the delay and sustain. So about that long of a sustain. So make the decay, the sustain, about as long as the other. So decay and sustain as long as the other is. Sorry, poor phrasing. So I want to make sure that those are brief, yet roughly the same. So here we are. And let's make it a little fatter sounding with another oscillator, about an octave lower. Actually, let's even add a third oscillator. Oop, let's turn that off. Well, that's weird. There we go. Okay, cool. Now let's move on to sprinkle on. So chorus and effects. Cool. And let's raise the feedback a little bit just because, well, just because. And let's shorten the time between delays. Kind of make it seem like a shower of sound, or little droplets of sound. Okay, so let's go with that, and let's see what this sounds like altogether. Well, recording this track with all the other things. It would be nice to do this. Okay, let's try that again. I don't know why that didn't record. There we go. So we got something decent, I guess. Maybe not the best, but we've got something that's adequate. And I'll just add some drums. So let's see what that is like here. Ooh. Do it again. Let's start over. Cool. All right. So let's quit the battery. And there you have it. So, yeah, if you enjoyed it, leave a comment, leave a question if you have any questions. So thank you for watching, those who tuned in. Otherwise, hope to see you later. All right, thanks. Let's see if I can stop this. There we are.